From the onset, the road that led out of Brightfall City seemed charmed by late summer languor. The air shimmered above the crimson-dusted bricks, and the smells of cinnamon orchards drifted over the ramparts. Yet Mara, cartographer's daughter, felt an unseasonable chill as she crossed the southern archway. It was not cold, exactly, but there was a suggestion of something different in the light, as though the sun had snagged on an unseen branch, unable to finish its daily tumble behind the ochre hills. She tugged her satchel tighter and consulted her father's brass compass. The needle trembled in ways it never had inside the city walls. Her father called such tremors stories looking for a listener. She shook her head, amused at her own gullibility, and set out. She had one mission: deliver the rolled parchment, her father's painstaking map of the newly discovered Sandmouth tributaries, to the archivists of Dawnspire. The journey ought to have taken 6 days, yet by the second evening she realized the sky hadn't darkened once since she passed through the gate. The sun was dipping, yes, but never truly setting, and dusk, stretched thin like caramel, hung above the hedgerows hour after hour. On the third day, Mara met her first fellow traveller, an elderly mason named Harlan, pushing a wheelbarrow filled with stone fragments that glittered rose gold. She offered water. He offered rumour. "You know the tale, don't you?" he rasped, wiping his brow. "The saga of the Sapphire Tortoise that carries Twilight on its shell and pauses sunsets for travellers in need?" Mara laughed, unsure whether to humour him. She'd grown up on stories: silver swans that ferried lost children, valiant winds that could read heartbreak. But sapphire tortoises? Too extravagant, even for Brightfall's balladeers. Seeing her scepticism, Harlan tapped the rim of his barrow. "Doubt if you will, yet I met someone years ago who swore she saw it by the Whisper Pines, said its shell glowed with all the colours that live between daylight and darkness, said time itself slowed to a sleepy heartbeat while it waited for her to mend a broken heel on her boot." He squinted at the horizon. "I rather think the sky's caught in its spell again, don't you?" Mara followed his gaze. The sun, balanced like a wobbling coin on the edge of the world, refused to drop. Streaks of mauve and amber banded the heavens, too static for comfort, like paint that refused to dry. She thanked Harlan and continued, her steps quickening. She wanted to reach Dawnspire, deliver the map, and perhaps return to normal sunsets. Absurd though it seemed, the lengthened dusk unsettled her more than bandits or wolves. Later that day, if day still applied, she approached a meadow ringed by silver-leaf poplars. In its centre stood a stone well, the bucket dangling motionless. A young shepherdess sat on the low wall, sheep grazing nearby, their bleats soft as yawns. The girl introduced herself as Elowyn. "A cartographer's daughter?" Elowyn brightened. "Then you know routes. I've got to drive my flock to Riverglass Glen, but I can't leave until the sky lets the stars out. Too many night predators around. This sticky dusk," she gestured upward, "holds everything in uneasy balance. No owls, no bats, no proper signals that the day is done." Mara shared Harlan's rumour. Elowyn whistled. "If it's true, then the tortoise might ease its grip if travellers demonstrate they can manage without its mercy." She slipped something from her satchel, a spindle of blue wool. "I'm knitting star powders into cloaks for my sheep. Reflective thread. Predators shy from it." She handed Mara a skein. "You'll do better on the road if you wear some around your wrist. Star thread confuses creatures that live between times." They parted, and Mara wrapped the shimmering yarn twice around her right arm. Its fibres crackled with faint light, like embers cooling in ash. By the endless dusk of the fourth day, tiredness weighed on her heavier than her satchel. She found herself yawning every few steps, perception blurring, unable to judge how much ground she'd covered. Her compass spun perpetually. Frustration pricked tears in her eyes. She considered turning back, but only one fact kept her marching. Dawnspire held her father's legacy, and she would not let time's distortion unravel his dream of charting the tributaries for all posterity. At twilight, the same twilight, she reached a forest whose limbs drooped low, heavy with dwindling light. It was there she heard the song, notes like water spilled into stillness, slow and resonant, crafted of single plucks that rang longer than physics allowed. Mara followed the melody, stepping over twisted roots. In a clearing stood a man beside a hammered copper harp. His clothes were the color of rain clouds, his hair swept back as if in constant wind. He played with eyes shut, head tilted skyward. When the final note faded, he looked at Mara. "Pardon, I rarely have an audience." "I'm Luthander." "Mara," she asked how long he'd been playing here. He sighed. "Hours? Days? I was on my way to perform at Dawnspire's Festival of Resonance, yet the road dilated beneath me. When the sun refused to set, I came here and kept playing, hoping to measure time by my songs. But every refrain lasts longer than it should. Sound stretches like taffy." He tapped his harp fret. "The strings are tuned to diurnal cycles. When day or night misbehaves, the music feels exiled." An idea struck Mara. What if music, your music, could coax the sun onward, or soothe the tortoise if it truly exists? Harlan spoke of travelers showing resourcefulness. Elowen knits star cloaks. Perhaps we each carry a key that convinces Twilight to release its hold. Luthander's eyebrows rose. "Worth trying. Where do we find this tortoise?" Mara swallowed. "Stories mention whisper pines. That's east of here, near the border of the Glasslow Marsh." He nodded. "Then we travel together." The pair left the forest, Luthander strumming soft progressions that kept their hearts steady. The star thread on Mara's wrist glimmered in time with the notes, pulses synchronized. She felt her fatigue ease, as though the music reorganized her weaving thoughts. They camped briefly, though. Sleeping under perpetual dusk felt wrong, sharing dried cherries and barley biscuits. When they resumed, Mara noticed faint footprints on the dusty path. Rounded impressions, patterned, the width of dinner plates. Shell ridges, perhaps? She knelt, studied them, and found tiny flecks of blue within the indentations. They shimmered like ground sapphire. Her breath caught. "It's real," they hurried. Soon pine silhouettes serrated the horizon, stalwart, whispering among themselves. Hidden breezes shifted needles in secret conversation. The instant they entered the grove, sound changed. The hush was not silence, but suspension, as if noise itself remembered manners. Even Luthander's harp fell mute. Its strings refused vibration. And there, at the heart of the pines, stood the tortoise. It was smaller than Mara imagined, only waist high, but its presence filled the clearing. Its shell glowed indigo, facets catching slivers of the prolonged dusk. Bands of gold crisscrossed its carapace, forming patterns reminiscent of constellations. Within each pentagonal scute, captured light swirled like storm clouds filmed in reverse. And on its back, balanced with serene authority, was a bowl of twilight. The very gradient sky outside distilled into liquid glow. The bowl was carved from translucent stone. Its rim exhaled faint motes that drifted upward to replenish the heavens. Mara approached slowly, palms open. Luthander bowed, pressing a chord that somehow found voice again, a hushed loud tremble like the first star's appearance. The tortoise lifted its head. Its eyes were dark, yet contained mirrors of the elongated sunset. Mara spoke. "Great Guardian, we thank you for the gift of extra daylight, but travelers now linger in limbo. Sheep need night, musicians need dawn resets, cartographers need the comfort of finished chapters. Might you release the sun to its rest?" The tortoise made no sound, yet gentle vibrations rippled through the mossy ground. Images brushed against Mara's mind. A desert wanderer collapsing, saved because dusk refused to fade, sparing him from freezing night. A midwife racing along cliffs, light lasting just long enough for safe delivery. She perceived the tortoise's vow, to arrest sunset whenever desperation warranted. It waited until it sensed equilibrium restored among those it aided. Mara exhaled. "So, you're still waiting? What sign proves we're beyond need?" She heard Elowin's voice in memory. Star parent source. Resourcefulness. Proof that mortals could craft their own light, protect their own, guide their own melodies. She unwound the star thread bracelet and approached. The tortoise regarded her with tranquil patience. She draped the blue yarn across its shell. The thread's reflective flecks mingled with sapphire flecks, twinning sparks. She gestured to Luthander. He lifted his harp. "May I serenade?" The tortoise blinked. He plucked. Music poured. Yet the notes were no longer trapped. They rose, whirled, and fused with drifting motes from the twilight bowl. Sound became visible. It spiraled upward like a ladder, rung after glowing rung, until it vanished among clouds. The tortoise's eyes half closed, as if tasting calm. Mara's voice quivered. "We can care for each other now. Let the sun rest, so dawn may come, so new journeys may begin." The tortoise lowered its head. A deep hum filled the clearing. The twilight fluid in the bowl shivered, then tilted. Slowly, it flowed back into the sky, not in a torrent, but as mist caught by currents. The glow overhead intensified, colors boldening. The sun, perched for days on the horizon, shuddered forward. Night finally arrived. Darkness flooded as a gentle tide. Stars pricked holes through the sable vault, more numerous and radiant than Mara remembered. She felt tears, part relief, part gratitude. Luthander's last chord faded, replaced by cricket song. The tortoise's shell lost none of its luster, yet its facets eased from anxious brightness to restful gleam. It turned, pacing toward deeper woods, bowl now empty, ready for future twilight. "Thank you," Mara whispered. It paused. On the moss lay something, a chip of sapphire shaped like a compass needle. The tortoise nudged it forward, then vanished among whispering trunks. Mara retrieved the shard. It glowed faintly, aligning itself northeast, the direction of Dawnspire. Luthander broke the silence. "Your map, my concert, Elowin's flock. We have nights and days again." Mara smiled, drying tears. "We must make them count." They camped in true night. Morning arrived eager and ordinary. Dew sparkled, birds debated the sunrise with rowdy zeal. They found their sense of duration renewed, walking conformed to expectation, hunger aligned with hour. On the 7th morning of her odyssey, but truly only 4 had passed, by natural measures, Elowin was there, guiding sheep that wore tiny sleeveless cloaks, stitched with star-printed thread. The shepherdess hailed them. "Elowin!" Mara waved. "Night came." The girl grinned. Predators kept their distance. Cloaks worked. And the moon looked enormous. I think she missed us. Together, they continued the last leg, across Moonshaft Bridge, through the lavender fields, up the spiral roads of Dawnspire. The city, built atop limestone cliffs, resembled teeth chewing the dawn. Archivists in sage-green robes received Mara with reverence, unrolling her father's map inside a hall lined with stained-glass skylights. Every tributary, every dune glimmered under morning rays. Mara set the sapphire compass chip atop the parchment. It pulsed once, embedding itself where the map depicted the whisper pines. An elder archivist studied it. "Living stone," she murmured, awed. "Your father's charts now bear a fragment of temporal legend. This will guide future travelers not merely across space, but through precarious hours." Luthander, after tuning his harp, performed in Dawnspire's amphitheatre. The audience swayed, and even breezes paused to listen. When he struck his final crescendo, night arrived punctually, and standing ovations glimmered beneath torches. Weeks passed. Mara stayed, annotating archives, adding a new chapter to Brightfall's compendium. The Saga of the Sapphire Tortoise. Her account was cautious. She noted times, companions, evidence. Yet she inserted a margin note. The tortoise intervenes only until we discover our own dusk lanterns. One dawn, as she prepared to leave for home, she stopped at Dawnspire's overlook. A caravan was assembling below. Merchants, messengers, adventurers. She heard a child ask her father what determined the rhythm of days. The man answered, "The sun moves, and we move with it." Mara smiled, knowing another answer existed. Sometimes it pauses, because a sapphire guardian senses worry in our footsteps. She began her return journey. Star thread bracelet rewound, sapphire shard on a chain over her heart. The compass she carried no longer trembled unpredictably. Its certainty reminded her of trust well placed. Days returned to habit. Sunsets finished their performance. Nights promised rest. Dawn roused ambitions. Yet subtle changes lingered. Shepherds patterned their sheep's cloaks with tiny constellations, not from fear now, but for beauty. Luthander's new compositions laced dust chord progressions, capturing the hush between worlds. Cartographers throughout the realm etched symbols of tortoise shells alongside conventional compasses, honoring the guardian of in-between. Mara found her route toward Brightfall easier than before, partly because she'd mapped it, partly because her mind was lighter. She visited Harlan near the cinnamon orchards. The mason was repairing archways. "You saw it, didn't you?" he asked, eyes twinkling. She nodded, gifting him a scrap of star thread. "For your workbench. May your chisel strike true at any hour." That evening, as she crossed Brightfall's gate, the sun dipped in routine grace. But just before vanishing, it seemed to wink a single flare of sapphire over the ochre hills. People on the ramparts gasped. Some claimed it was a mirage. Mara knew better. The tortoise was somewhere, watching, ensuring that Twilight remained a choice, not a trap, available when mercy was required. Life resumed. Mara taught apprentices to read landscapes, told children how shadows could be friends, and kept the sapphire shards safe. Occasionally, her compass needle quivered, subtle as breath. She would step outside, look west, and if the late light felt too warm, too elongated, she listened for a hum in the earth. She would whisper thanks. Whether the tortoise lingered or merely memory did. Years later, when Brightfall faced drought and farmers prayed for longer, cooler evenings so crops might drink condensed mist, Twilight did stretch again. Just enough. Mara, older, recognizing the pattern, gathered townsfolk to weave star-thread nets that captured dew. They survived the season. They did not need to find the tortoise. They had learned the lesson. The saga became song, then proverb, then gentle superstition embroidered on festival banners. Pause if you must, but remember to release. Children counted shells on the riverbank, awarding the rare blue-tinted ones honorary status. Guildhouses painted their doors indigo during equinox week, signifying openness to those journeying through uncertain hours. Decades later, when Mara's hair silvered, she returned to Whisper Pines with her granddaughter Lynn. The sky, perfectly normal, hinted no anomaly. Still, Mara wanted to pay respect. They found a clearing, unchanged but for new undergrowth. Standing on mossy earth, Mara told Lynn the full tale, the real one, not the polished archive version. When she finished, Lynn asked, "Will it come now?" Mara smiled. "Only if someone is truly in need." Lynn contemplated. "I think it teaches that Twilight is gift and responsibility." Mara squeezed her hand. "Yes." They left a token, a fresh map, ink still drying, folded beneath a stone. At its corner, Lynn had drawn a small sapphire tortoise carrying a glowing bowl on its back. They never saw the tortoise that day, yet as they exited the pines, a breeze unfroze all needles at once, whispering applause. And that evening sunset spilled over Brightfall in abrupt haste, as though determined to meet schedule. But for a fleeting instant before the final sliver sank, the horizon burned a familiar indigo. Enough for Mara to feel heartbeats align with old music. Enough for Lynn to widen her eyes at possibility. Generations cycled. Some nights stretched longer than clocks could record. Storytellers credited the Sapphire Tortoise. Some sunsets dive fast, plummeting like anchors. Sailors murmured thanks to the Guardian for returning dark winds quickly so they might catch favourable stars. And in each era, people forged their own lanterns, of glass, of song, of shared vigil. So Twilight could be a meeting place, not captivity, because that was the covenant carved in crystal shell. Light holds the door, but mortals must step through. So when you walk a road where the sun hovers awkwardly, when shadows lengthen yet refuse night, listen for subterranean hum. Notice if your compass needle shakes, if wool around your wrist sparks with flecks of impossible blue. The tortoise may be near, heavy with ready twilight. It does not ask for thanks, only courage. Offer your resourcefulness, Knat stars, strike chords, chart honest maps, and it will know you are learning. Then, with the gentlest tilt of its bowl, it will let the sun complete its arc, and the sky will exhale hours again, and you will have a story to carry, one that begins, "There is a guardian of the in-between, a sapphire tortoise who pauses sunsets for travellers in need," and ends, inevitably, in renewed sunrise, because every saga worth telling must allow its listeners to journey on.